Okay. I see typing in the chats. Okay, so I see Jerome, Shaniqua, and Claudine are sitting together. Nadine says, okay, it's Kurtley, Sebastian, 3 people sitting together there. Okay, that's great. I see Sachin is typing. I think someone else is trying to join the class. Okay, brilliant. So I will commence. So it's very important that okay, cool. So I can see that Alistair is also with us. Brilliant. Okay. So it's very important that you note this first important fact about lesson 2 and 3. Okay. Lesson 2 is all about developing a work breakdown structure. It's about breaking down work to see exactly what we need to do to achieve an objective. Okay. And lesson 3 doesn't have a summative. All you have to do for lesson 3 is develop some sort of flow chart. And I give you some ideas in my slides in terms of how to approach, these different flow charts. And I'd like you to be as creative and innovative as possible when you're developing your respective flow chart. Okay, so but lesson two is all about work breakdown structures. Can you give me a thumbs up or raise your hand if you've ever heard the term work breakdown structure or work decomposition structure? Have we heard that before? Okay, seems like we haven't. Okay, so at this point, I would advise you to all start creating a Miro account, and I'll put this in the chat so that you have access to it. You have to create an account, but Miro is a tool that allows you to create flowcharts, diagrams, figures, and it's really free flowing. And I'll give you an example. I'll develop a work breakdown structure for you on there so that you can see what it looks like while you're using the tool. But that's what we're going to be doing today. Is we're going to determine the work required to accomplish objectives and organize the scope of a simple to moderately complex project. Okay. The key thing about the work breakdown structure is that we are breaking down bigger tasks so that we can see exactly what work is required to complete those tasks, to meet those objectives. Okay. So let me, okay. So within this lesson, we will be doing the following. We'll look at the refinement of a project scope statement. Your project scope statement has to be as refined as possible because it has such a major impact on the work breakdown structure. Okay. It has an impact on how the horizontal divisions occur. It has an impact on how the vertical divisions occur. And you also need to start using terminology such as deliverables. Okay, deliverables are important. They literally take up an entire row on your WBS. Okay, and then at the end of this, we need to be able to determine a completion criteria. So what criteria, what do we need to be done for this project to be considered complete? That's exactly what a completion criteria is. Okay. Um, so the term refined, if we ask ourselves, what does it mean to refine? Well, refinement quite simply means to make it better, to make it finer, to improve upon, to get rid of any wastage or any excess that shouldn't be considered or included. It's just simply put to make better. And that's what we're trying to do with the refinement of our scope statement, is you want to make sure that it is as fit for use. It's good for your project. It's as clear it's as specific as possible, so that when you start doing bigger and larger tasks that are required in your project, like developing the work breakdown structure, you are as clear as possible in terms of what needs to be done in that scope statement. Okay. So the definition of refinement means to make minor changes so as to improve or clarify. So we're trying to make sure that things are improved. We're trying to make sure that things are as clear as possible. Okay. Um, So the purpose of refinement is to provide an overview of the project and its boundaries. It's to highlight the outcomes and any deliverables. It's to help in solving any misunderstandings. So you want to make sure that everyone knows exactly what's happening. And it helps to explain what should and should not be done or should not be included in the project. So it's setting that clear ring fence, that boundary, that limitation, that should exist. And if you write the scope statement wrong, it could be very misleading. It could be sharing the wrong or information that's not useful to the team. We want to provide an overview of the project. We want to also say that these are the limitations or the boundaries. These are areas we'll operate in. These are the areas we will not operate in. We also want to highlight. We want to say that this is important to the project. This is not important to the project. We want to talk about deliverables. Okay. And you want to make sure that no one's confused by anything you've shared. No one has a lack of understanding in terms of what they need to be doing, what needs to be done. Okay. So I'm going to give you a scope statement, and I want us to read it. I will read it. So it says the purpose of this project is to improve overall customer satisfaction by implementing a new system for tracking and addressing customer complaints. The new system will involve the use of advanced technology to improve efficiency and accuracy in identifying and resolving customer issues. Additionally, we will be training customer service representatives on new procedures and protocols for handling customer complaints, as well as revising our current customer complaints form. Furthermore, we will be conducting customer satisfaction surveys to gather feedback and improve our understanding of customer needs. In addition, we will be analyzing the customer data collected from these surveys in order to identify patterns and trends in customer complaints. And we will use this information continuously to improve our complaints resolution procedure. Additionally, we will be working closely with other departments within the company to ensure that all customer complaints are being handled in a timely manner. Okay, so what do we think about the scope statement? How do we feel about it? What are the thoughts? What is the first thing that comes to mind? Just type it in the chat so you can unmute yourself and speak to me. Sebastian,
Yes. Good morning, Carl.
morning.
Yeah, my first observation is that's a bit long, you know. You seem to get confused in all the instructions in that scope statement.
Yeah, that's very true. If I gave this to you and I said you have to start today, do you know where you'll begin?
It needed to be broken down. I think when I think about the work that we've done, you know, it includes a lot of aspects of of the whole project in that one statement.
I think that this is not a good scope statement. It doesn't meet our criteria. Okay, so remember this should be our criteria for the scope statement. It doesn't highlight outcomes or deliverables. It doesn't provide us with a real overview. There's no real boundaries, and it creates misunderstanding as opposed to, clarifying information. Um, this is just, it feels like they started writing and then they thought, no, let me add more, let me add this, I forgot this, I forgot that. So they just kept writing for the sake of adding to it. So it's not a good scope statement. But if we take this scope statement and we refine it, um, this is what a refined version looks like. Okay, and I'll read it to you. So the project aims to improve customer satisfaction by implementing a new complaints tracking system that utilizes advanced technology, training customer services representatives on the new complaint handling procedure, and conducting customer satisfaction surveys to gather feedback. This project will also analyze survey data to identify patterns and trends in customer complaints and use this information to improve our complaints resolution process. Now, I think this is good. I think this is better. Can we all give me a thumbs up if you agree that it's better? Okay, great. I can see that Jacqueline says yes. Jerome says yes. Okay. Now, there is still a few things missing here. You know what I mean? I'm looking for key deliverables, key boundaries, ring fence. You want to talk about a ring fence or area of focus? Um, we're not, we're lacking a little bit of, we need to be a little more specific if we want to get this to be as clear as possible. But this is definitely a step in the right direction. This is a refined version of the previous scope statement, and it is a lot clearer. We can see that we're aiming to improve customer satisfaction. We want to implement a new customer complaint tracking system. So there's going to be some sort of IT component, some sort of IT element. We can see that we're doing training. So we're going to have to train customer service representatives on the system or the procedures. So we're going to have to do some sort of training. So that's going to have to be included in the deliverables. And then we also want the system to gather satisfaction surveys. So it must have some sort of data collection mechanism, and then it must generate reports that we can use, for to identify patterns and trends. Okay, so we can see that this is a little more refined, but it's not as clear as I think it could be. Okay, but it is a good example of how to take a banned scope statement and how to refine it, how to improve it, how to make it better. Okay, so I'm going to keep going. Here's another one. So it says the objective of this project is to design and develop a new website for our company, which will serve as the primary source of information for our customers and stakeholders. The website will have a modern and user-friendly design, easy navigation, and will be optimized. So let's see into the Okay, will be optimized for search engine. So search engine optimization is a very prominent terminology in the space of website development. They abbreviate it, they turn it into an acronym often. Okay, the website will include various features such as an online store, a blog section, a contact form, a live chat feature, a newsletter subscription, a photo gallery, a calendar of events. The website will also be mobile friendly and support multiple languages. Furthermore, the website will be integrated with social media platforms and will have the capability of tracking user behavior and analytics. Additionally, the website will be designed with the highest level of security and will comply with all industry standards and regulations. And the website will be easily updatable and expandable in the future. Okay, so I think that overall speaking, this scope statement is a little better than this one. Okay, than the first one we've seen. But it's not perfect. Okay, this one's not perfect. There's still a lot of room for improvement, a lot of area for refinement. So if we reflect on what we've read and what we've seen, we know that we're developing a website. That's quite obvious. And using the IT projects or building projects are often easier to explain project management and the principles or practices that take place within that. Okay. But if we go and we look at the refined version, it's a lot shorter. And that's the point. Sometimes when we're working with a project management team, you don't want to bombard them with paragraphs of what they need to read. Sometimes you need to just bullet point information so that you can get to the point, so they know exactly what they need to do. When I'm working on a project team, I don't want to know what all the other team players are doing. What I want to do is I want to know exactly what I need to do, what my role is, and I need deadlines, and let me do my thing then once I have that information. Okay, a lot of the other stuff is not necessary. It's just filler, info. It's there to distract me while I'm trying to focus on what I need to do as a project team member. As a project manager, you want the full picture, so this does paint the full picture, but it could be a little clearer. Okay, it's imagine it if you were painting a picture, you're missing some of the colors, some of the primary colors. So this does need refinement. So if we read the refined version, it says this project aims to design and develop a new website for the company with modern design, easy navigation, and optimization for search engines. The website will include let me just allow Dina to join in. The website will include an online store, a contact form, and integration with social media platforms. Additionally, the website will be mobile friendly, comply with industry standards, and will be easily updatable in the future. Okay, so immediately we're seeing that this is much shorter, clearer, to the point. Again, it's not perfect. There's still a lot of room for improvement. But that's the point. The refinement is never a once. You don't just refine once and you're done with it. Refinement is continuous. And if we don't have deadlines, you can keep refining until the end of time. But you have set a deadline for the refinement process, and refine as much as you can until you hit that deadline. Okay, but this is definitely much better than the first version of the scope statement. I think it's a lot clearer. Okay, and that's what we're going for. Now, in the modern era, the modern times we live in, initially when I developed these slides, we didn't have a lot of the AI tools that we have nowadays. Okay, a lot of the stuff was done manually. The process of refinement was done manually. Okay, nowadays technology exists to help you. Technology can streamline, can make these things a lot faster than what you or I can do. Okay, so what I want to advocate for and what I want to say is, if you have a question, Carl, can I use ChatGPT to refine my scope statement? Yes, you can. And there's a specific reason why you can do that. Okay. If you have written the first scope statement, the first one you've developed is yours and it's been written by you, that is your property. That is your IP. You're welcome to do with it what you want. As long as you wrote the first version, you can put that version into GPT and ask it to refine it. And then what it's doing is it's taking what you have and making it better, which is what we're looking for. Okay. I don't want a scope statement generated by AI. I want a scope statement that you wrote and then I had AI refine it. Then it's perfectly fine because it's your idea just made better with AI. It's not AI's idea made better by AI. It's your idea. So yes, you can use technology such as GPT, OpenAI, any of those ones. You can use them to, further refine your existing scope statements, but do not have it generate the scope statement for you and then go and refine that AI generated scope statement, because it's going to be obvious that it's not your work. Okay. Now, I wanted to say something else about this. Yeah. Oh, and then also when you are generating your scope statement, you don't have to. Sorry, let me just let Felicia in. A lot of people are joining now. So you can also have AI write the initial scope statement for you, but what you do is you give it all the information it needs to know. So if you give it, you tell GPT, imagine using ChatGPT, say GPT, I'm doing a building project. Okay, building project is going to last 18 months. Our budget is 1.5 million. We will have a team of 12 people working on it. The client's name is X. You just give it as much information about the project as you can. Even if you've bullet pointed that info and then you ask it to generate that scope, that is fine because it's still all your information. It's still your IP. Okay. As long as it's not making up information for you, you're allowed to use it. As soon as it starts making up that information, we're going to be in trouble. Okay, then it won't be your work. It's you kind of dabbling in a weird version of plagiarism. Okay, but let's keep going. So this is the refined version of that previous scope statement. And that's the first task you need to do. You need to refine scope statements. You need to make them better, so that you can start looking at your work breakdown structures. Okay. Yeah, so refine scope statements and work decomposition. So refining the scope statement makes the creation of work packages much easier. So the new term that you need to get comfortable with is the WBS, which is the work breakdown structure. Okay, other project managers like to use work decomposition structure, and that's WDS. Doesn't matter, it's the same thing, it's just different terminologies. Breakdown and decomposition it means the same thing. I just think that breakdown is a lot nicer than decomposition because when something decomposes, it kind of it's a little nod to death, and I prefer not to use that terminology. I think breakdown is nicer because you can link it to analysis sort of thing. Okay, but let's keep going. So let's look at work breakdown structure, or work decomposition. Okay, so typically the word decomposition would be morbid, it would be dark, it would be distasteful. But in project management, when we refer to decomposition, we're simply thinking about how we can break down bigger tasks into smaller work packages. Okay, so imagine if your first task is to, in a project where you're building a house, the first task is to lay the foundation. I'm sure that you can break down that task of laying the foundation into several other little tasks that your team needs to do before you can consider the foundation being laid, or that you can consider the foundation being complete, in terms of it being laid. Okay, so it's very important to note when we do the work breakdown instruction, we have two different types of decomposition. We have horizontal decomposition and then we have vertical decomposition. Okay, horizontal is left to right or right to left. Your vertical is up and down. Okay, and you'll see that it doesn't factor in too much. It's not a big deal. It's just important to use the correct terminology when you're describing the decomposition. Okay, so when we look at horizontal decomposition, we're looking at from left to right, and it's easy to start with a basic framework. Okay, so I always recommend that students start with with this framework, with this one. Um, so you start with your project name on top, and then you start by putting out your project phases. Okay, so in this graphic, we have three phases. We have the initiate phase, the control phase, and the closeout. But just keep in mind that not all projects are limited to just these three phases. There are projects that have 4 phases, 5 phases. Sometimes there's the monitoring and controlling phase. Sometimes they're separated. Sometimes they have a planning and execution phase. Having these three, this is not the only way to do it. Different projects have different needs, different requirements. That's why they'll have different types of phases. So what I want to say is don't limit yourself to just these three phases. I would use this as a starting point, and then if you feel like I need to have a planning or an execution phase, then add it in. Add it in. There's nothing wrong with including that extra phase. Okay. The whole idea with doing this project management course also is that we don't want to limit you. I want you to start thinking of yourself as a project manager, and project managers make big decisions. They decide whether a project should be broken down into 3 phases, 4 phases, 5 phases. Some project managers have sub-projects in their projects, which means it's a project within a project. Okay, which would mean, for example, if we had an execution phase, and we're building a house, but one of our project requirements is that we find land. So in our planning phase, we'll include a sub project which is the sourcing of land to build on, and that becomes a project on its own with its own life cycle, with its own steps, with its own work breakdown structure. Okay, and I can see that Sebastian commented in the chat saying deconstruct, and yeah, that's basically what we're doing is we're taking this idea of the project and you're just deconstructing it, you're breaking it down, you're getting to all the little bits of tasks and activities that need to be done so that you can present it to your team, you can present it to your clients, you can show the team exactly what they're going to be doing, because once you have work packages you can allocate it to team members. Okay, once you have the full picture, you can show the client exactly the steps you're going to be walking through to get this project done. And then you also will be addressing deliverables. Okay, deliverables are very important in this task because deliverables are the things that we can hand over to the client at the end of the project. We're literally just giving these are the deliverables. If it was to develop a website, your deliverable, one of the key deliverables would be the website itself. Another one would be the code, the front end, back end code. Um, it could include, this includes many different things. If we're doing building a house project, one of the key deliverables would be the house, that you built, you handing it over. Okay. Often deliverables are best described as the physical things we can hand over, but because of the world we're living in, that's not the case anymore. Yeah, sorry, just give me a second. Okay, my apologies. So yeah, we're looking for deliverables, and these would typically be things that we can physically feel. But with the way the world's going, it now also includes digital things. But it would also include any kind of contracts you've signed, any kind of agreements you have, any kind of additional leftover resources. These are all deliverables. These all need to be handed over back to the client at the end of the project. Okay. So this is a good example of vertical decomposition. So you'll see that we start breaking down our project and we're going up and down. So this is not the greatest example, but it is an example nonetheless. So you can see that we're just focusing in on the project initiation phase. So if you go, you'll see that this is the phase we're looking at to be more specific. You'll see that we've come up with 5 key tasks that need to happen, and we start with the deliverables in this. Okay. So the first thing we did was we appointed a project team. This doesn't always necessarily have to happen in your initiation. It could be done before you've even started the project. It doesn't matter. Your appointment of the project team members would have appointment letters. Okay, that's going to be your physical deliverable. You can keep that. It's going to be there for record purposes. Okay, and then it would be included in some sort of update in the project documentation. So those appointment letters, you keep them for record purposes. Okay. Then the next one says reach out to stakeholders. So if you're setting up a meeting, there's going to be some sort of communication. You can follow a line of communication you can use. And then even if you set a meeting date, you want to have some sort of, snacks, you want to have an agenda set. All of that must be done beforehand. And all of this is you keep record of it because it's deliverables. It forms part of your deliverables. Okay. And then you also have you need to get the SLA signed, so there needs to be an agreement. If this hasn't been done already, you can do it in the project initiation phase. This is just getting agreements, signing off on the project, getting all the relevant stakeholders to agree on that contract. But before you can get the SLA signed off, you need to actually develop the contract. You also want to have lawyers do checks to make sure that everything is legally binding, that it's, it will hold up in a court of law. You also want to set up relations with suppliers. So there must be some sort of contractual agreement. I would not operate without contracts in place. It's really a high risk, high reward, I guess. But you want to play on the safer side. You want to play, cautiously, because if you lose your supply while you're busy trying to deliver on a project, you'd have to find another one. Another one might not always be available. So you have to be very cautious. And also having contractual agreements in place means you can hold people accountable for when they're not doing what they're supposed to do. So it's very important that we make sure we tick these boxes as we go through, and then actually have the official kickoff of the project. So you want to communicate this, let all stakeholders know that the project has commenced and this is where we are, this is what we're doing. We have a similar type of approach with how we do learnerships. We don't do the organization of stacks and whatnot. But we do reach out to stakeholders and we let them know that the project has commenced. There is an entire process that goes to getting learners on the program. So just as I said, we have we set up contracts with the suppliers in this example. In our learnership projects, we have contracts with the learners. Okay, and that contract is separate to the initial contract that is signed with the client. That's what I'm saying. This initiation phase is very different it's different for different types of projects. And it does often require that the contracts be set up, agreements be put into place, so that you have the resources and you can hold people accountable for delivery on the project. Okay. And everything you do, or most things you do, should have some sort of evidence, some sort of supporting document, and that will fall part of your deliverable. At the end of the program, you provide that as evidence to say I did what we were supposed to do. Okay. If we go and we look at it, what you'll see is you'll move from one phase to the next. So you'll go to the control phase, and as you go, you keep doing it. It becomes bigger and bigger. It becomes a network branch of different activities, different tasks that need to be done for your project. Now, all of this that you're seeing on the slide, I developed on Miro. Just to show students how to do it. And you'll see that eventually we'll get to the closeout and it will branch out in a similar manner. Okay, I just didn't complete it because I wanted to show you how big it can get and how it branches out. And you can also go, you can have a key task here that would have additional requirements that you need to do. So for example, imagine part of your project is to sell a vehicle, for example. Before you can sell the vehicle, you need to do roadworthy check. And you do the roadworthy says, no, you need new tires. So that becomes something that will become a part of your horizontal division so that you can branch out what you need to do to get tires. You need to source a supplier, pay for them, that sort of thing. So what you want to do is if you're building on, if you're adding on to a task to get it done, to complete it, then you go horizontally. If it's a new task, then you try and go down. And if you can delegate it to someone, a team member, then also go vertically, go down. But what you want to do is you want to branch it out as much as possible, and then once you've completed the entire work breakdown structure, you can start delegating it, delegating the individual blocks, or we call them work packages, to members of your team. You can either do it. You can either give each team member a deliverable that they must deal with, or they must deal with individual tasks, and then they all come together at the end, and everyone's done their parts to meet that individual deliverable. It all depends on how you want to do it as a project manager. Okay, I do have complete examples of the work breakdown structure. So this is just what the levels look like in the label. So on level 1, we have our project name. Level 2, we have our phases. Level 3, we have our deliverables. Level 4, we have work packages. Anything from 4 downward would just be a work package. Okay. And it's very important that we know that this is what should go on this level kind of thing. Okay. Let me keep going. I'm going to show you some samples. Oh, okay. And then also, while you're doing this, you need to develop a work breakdown structure dictionary. Okay. And what this is it just tells us what each of the blocks are, or each of the sticky notes are at the levels. So you'll see that we have project initiation. It's on level 1. You give it a code. This code is very important because you use the code when you're allocating it to staff members. You can give a description and you can allocate it. Okay. Some of these things will not be allocated to individual members. So, for example, the initiation of the project, this is a phase. So this is going to be allocated to the whole team. Okay. And then you can see that we have appointment of the team. So you can have, this could be the project manager's job, and you can literally say, interviewing, shortlisting, appointment letters. You include all of that in the description. You make sure that it's allocated to your project manager. Okay, then it says update of the project documentation. So this is going to be done by the project manager again. Reaching out to stakeholders. So at this point, you can start delegating. You can say that one of our team members is going to be in charge of communications, and then you can delegate it to them and provide a little bit of a description on what that activity entails for the team member, what they need to do. Okay, this is very important. You will be required to make one for your project, so you can even use my template, and you can also alter it if you feel like, I want to add a little more, or I feel like one of the columns is unnecessary. You can change it. You're welcome to. I like students who take what I provide and use it as a foundation or starting point, and then build off of it. I think that's the best way to approach these things, because at the end of the day, we all want to think like project managers, and you need to be your own project manager. You can't copy and paste what others have done. You can follow their formula, but make alterations. Okay. It's like we're all preparing the same dish, but we're doing it differently, and that's perfectly fine as long as you reach the same end goal. Okay. So for example, if we were all captains of a ship and we're all trying to go to the same location, all starting at the same point, we can all choose our own course of direction, our own path that we follow to get from point A to B. And that's what I want to advocate for. Don't feel nervous, don't be shy about trying something different when you answer your questions, or when you approach these project management questions. Okay, you're allowed to have your own voice. You're allowed to be creative about it. If you think there's a better way to approach it, then definitely, follow it, do it, and then let's see what you can come up with. Okay. So this is an example of a project management work breakdown structure. I just want to give you samples. Again, they're not perfect, but you'll see that the phases they have more. Okay, and it says it's a commercial project. So in your initiation, you have your evaluation. So when they say evaluation, they actually go out to the client and they do an evaluation. and then they build the charter based off of that evaluation. It's a good idea. It's a good approach. Then you can see that we have our planning, which includes the scope statement, the team, the plan schedule, your budget, anything that would go into the planning would go in under there. Then we have our execution. So they have lay the foundation. You can see there's excavate, pour concrete. Then we have interior work. So electrical, plumbing. Exterior work would be finishing touches. This is not as in-depth as I'd like it ideally. I think it's a little surface level, but it's a good starting point. So I would recommend start and then add to it, build off of it. Then they have the control phase. So the control phase can actually occur at the same time as the execution phase. Just because they put side by side doesn't mean that execution happens and then you control. It actually means that while you're executing, you manage your resources, you manage your cost, you manage your risk. And that should be a continuous thing until the project closes. And then we have our closeout. So we're looking at an audit, you're looking at a site cleanup, and you're looking at a document handover. Okay, remember your document handovers, any of those evidence, any of the evidences you've collected, any deliverables you have, any additional resources at the end you hand over. Okay, here's another example, and this one's for application design. So you can see the phases again are different because the project requirements are different. But we initiate and you develop a business case. You assign project executives. You come up with a charter. A better word would say develop a charter. And then in your planning, we make a schedule. You bring all the crucial resources. You set a budget. You analyze the potential risks. Remember, your analysis of potential risks are going to play an important role in your risk management, which we will talk about in later lessons. Okay. Then we have execution and control. So we handle communications, you handle procurement. Remember what procurement is the process of getting resources. So you pick a supplier, you look for the best price, but also best possible quality. It's finding that balance. Okay. Then track assigned tasks. So based on the work breakdown structure and who you've allocated to do certain tasks, you keep track of that. You perform project tasks, you changes in project activities, so you keep record. Even when we change projects, there's an entire process, an entire methodology that is assigned to change management in project. Okay. There's perform UAT. I'm not exactly sure what UAT is, but it's probably going to be something specific to the application design. And it's very important to note also, project managers, you don't have to know everything. You don't have to be the most informative person. You just need to understand the process, and you can bring in specialists and experts who can help you do the other things. It's very important to note that project managers don't have to, be everything to everybody. They must just be able to manage people to the point where they can have people use their expertise to get the job done. And then, they guide them and monitor them in terms of meeting deliverables and deadlines. Okay. Then we have closure, so document the closeout and then hand over the project. And it's very important that this closure happens. If you don't do closure, your project will just keep running forever. Okay, here's another example, and I like this example because it does have that the labels on each of them. So you can see that we have the project name on top. So it says project 1. You have a phase here, which is going to probably be your initiation. You can see that they put the deliverables. Yeah, and then they did something weird with this one is they put some of the deliverables in the second level. Okay, and this is probably what the project manager decided was necessary for the project. Sometimes projects are weird and have some weird things that are necessary. What you'll see, yeah, also is you have a sub project like where what we would normally have is a work package. And this is just because the project needs it. It's a requirement. So what I'm seeing, if I look at this, I'm not saying that they've done it wrong, but what I'm seeing is they have a very big project, okay, a massive project, because you have your phase, yeah, you have a deliverable, yeah, and this is going to be a very big deliverable. Then they have two more sub projects, and then they would obviously have more phases. This is not complete just yet, because you can't have a project with just one phase. We always need the minimum, which is your initiation, your control, and your closeout. So this is not fully complete, but it is a big project. It's massive. So you can see you have a deliverable here, we have a sub project there. We have and we have two other sub projects here. So it's a very big project. Okay. I would prefer if we didn't overcomplicate our work breakdown structures as much as this one is. Rather apply KISS principles, keep it sweet, short, and simple as much as possible. Okay. Cool. So that's basically the end of the slides I have for lesson 2. So now what we can do is we can either go and we can look at the work itself, or we can go and we can look at the slides for lesson 3 and then look at all the work together at the end. It's up to you guys. I don't mind. I think going to lesson 3 slides is easier than we do all of the slides together and then just look at all the work at once. I don't know, it's up to you. So just raise your hand if you want to look at all of the work at once, or if you want to. Okay, I see Jerome says go to lesson 3 slides. Okay, cool. I'm going to follow Jerome and my gut on this one. Let me see. Where is it? Yeah, this is lesson 3. It's not labeled properly. There's a problem. I must fix this because it's difficult to find if I've mislabeled it. Lesson 3 slides are very simple. Like they're not, it's not very difficult. So you'll see that the workbook itself is also not overcomplicated. What they want you to do is they want you to create a flow chart for project planning. And what I did is I gave you some steps that you can include in that flow chart. So you'll see that the step, so it's creating that project plan in six easy steps. You'll see that step 1 is, defining your project goals. So, what are the goals? And try and use your SMART goals and you set them so that it's specific, measurable, it is attainable, it's realistic, and it's time bound. Use that SMART acronym in the development of your goals. Literally what I was saying. So when we're specific, knowing what you will have to do and how, making sure it's measurable, so having a precise way to measure it, making sure that it's attainable, so being able to visualize the path, making sure that it's realistic, so being able to visualize results, and then time bound, so having a timeline for the achievement. And that's the best way to set these goals is use SMART. It's even at NQF 9 and 10, we're still talking about SMART goals. This is how important and great this tool is. It's effective. It works. Even when I do planning for research, which I do a lot of lately, I use SMART goals because it makes it easier for me as the person who's doing the work. Because I'm very specific, make sure that it's measurable. By a certain day, I have certain things done. And it's very realistic. What we do often to ourselves is we set goals that are not realistic. We say by this day, I'm gonna have everything done, and that's just sometimes it's just ridiculous. So, use SMART goals and use it properly so that you're setting goals that are realistic for the project. Okay. The next one is, you want to start prioritizing the goals wisely. So create some sort of structure, some sort of order. Make sure that you list the goals and then start rating them. Was this a 1? Is this a 2? Is this a 3? If it's a 1, it's important. If it's a 2, it's moderately important. If it's 3, it's not so important. Organize them accordingly so that you can focus on the ones that are important, or you can start focusing on the easy ones and then deal with the more challenging ones later. It depends how you've rated it. And those rating systems you develop, you choose how you want to do them. It's completely up to you. Okay. Step 2 is all about creating the deliverables. So remember, your deliverables would play a major role in the work breakdown structure development. If you haven't developed them yet, at this point, you must have them. Okay. It's very important, and try and list those deliverables in all the documents you have so that people know exactly what to expect in the project. Okay. So it's very important to note that a deliverable is a thing to be provided, especially as a product of the development process. So it's something that will come as a result of doing the project, of doing certain activities. And remember, our goals have to link to our deliverables. There needs to be a direct relationship between these two. If there isn't, then it means it's going to be misalignment between your project. And what we're looking for is we're looking for synergy. Okay. We want to see that all these different components that you have in project management are coming together and working together, plugging into each other and working together to give you that end goal, give you those deliverables, to and make sure that you run the project and you meet the requirements that the client has. Okay. Step 3 is about project scheduling. So listing all the activities that need to be carried out for each of the deliverables. I think no, I thought there's a spelling mistake. But yeah, so again, we're building off of the deliverables we have. And we are starting to think about timelines. So how long will it take me to do this? How long will it take me to do that? And you'll see that this scheduling thing becomes very important in lesson 4, where we actually look at different scheduling tools. I'm excited for us to do lesson 4, and I'm going to tell you just a little bit of foreshadowing. Make sure you bring a pen and paper. Okay, you're going to need it for that. It's a very practical lesson. You are required to do things, and you will be required to present findings once we're done or towards the end of the lesson. So just make sure you're ready for that, because that scheduling one is quite intense, but also quite involving. So you will have to participate in that lesson. Okay. Uh, so it's very important you're going to make sure that your deliverables convert to activities. And that you can see happening in the work breakdown structure. You can see that you have different work packages, and they come from the deliverables, which your work packages and activities are exactly the same thing. Okay. These activities would be the tasks that you'd have to do to complete the deliverable. So if a deliverable would be to lay the foundation, the first thing we need to do is clean the site. Second thing would be to mix the cement. All those little things that you do to get, you'd have to dig at some point. All of these things are activities that form part of the deliverable of laying the foundation. And that's what we're looking for. That's the kind of presentation I want to see. Let me keep going. So step 4 is other important elements to include. There are many, many different important elements you can include in your project plan. And again, it's up to you and your discretion as a project manager in terms of what you want to include. And not all projects have the same things, because projects are different, as I've said many times today. But you can include your project purpose. So let me just let Felicia back in. Okay, you can include your purpose, the objectives, the success criteria. You can have your assumptions, you can have your constraints, your dependencies. All of these ones, your assumptions, constraints, your dependencies, they come from the scope statement. So by having the scope statement in your project plan, you will automatically have them there already. Okay. You can also have key references, key terms, definitions, acronyms, roles and responsibilities. There are many different things you can include in this project plan. Again, it's up to your discretion in terms of what you want to do. Then you have your project plan, and then you have supporting plans. And these are secondary plans that link to the project plan. Okay. Remember, the project plan itself is going to be exactly about the project, like what's going to happen in the project, who's doing what, when does it start, when does it end. It's literally a plan for the project end to end. Okay, start to end, I should say. The supporting plans are the little nitty-gritty things that people don't think about in that project plan itself. And again, it's up to the project manager's discretion to decide whether they think it's necessary to include. So we have a communication plan that identifies who needs to be informed, the method of conveying the information, so meetings, reports, emails, telephonic communications. Then we have the communicator, the person responsible for sending these reports. Then we have the message to be conveyed, and then also when to report. So are we reporting monthly? Are we reporting every day? Are we reporting quarterly? Okay. So one of my former lecturers for project management at the master's level was an individual who managed a big project. It was a $1 billion project that he managed. And I spoke to him about, communication in projects. And I said to him that on learnerships, we only communicate once a month with the monthly report. And he was honestly shocked. He said, no, with my project where I had 60 people reporting to me. He had 60 people reporting to him every day. So they were communicating daily. And they were having morning meetings, evening meetings. And I just said to him, I don't understand how people get anything done if they spend the whole day, if you have a meeting in the morning and at night. Like, maybe because his project was a lot more fast paced, so a lot things happen during the day and things are quick. I said to him, with learnerships, the momentum is a little slower than that. Like, things do move, but it moves monthly as opposed to moving, daily. Because that would mean that every day students would have to submit a different type of lesson, and we'd have to meet every day to discuss that and mark and get it done. So yeah, that's why I said it's different projects, and that's why I'm telling you this, is because projects move at different paces. They develop different momentums, and that will be very informative to how you communicate. If you're communicating daily, if it's that intense, then you're going to want to have a communication plan in place. If it's monthly or quarterly, then it's not necessary. Then it's just something you're going to mention in your big project plan, but you're not going to have a communication plan set in place. It's not going to be completely necessary then. Okay. Let me see. So then we have risk management plan. So this is identification of common risks, adding to a risk log, and what we do to prevent. So don't worry too much about this. We do, and we will go into more depth and detail when we get to risk management at a later lesson. Then we have stakeholder management. Again, this is something we will deal with at a later stage, but it is there. We have financial planning. This will also be done in a later lesson, but you'll see that we'll do a lot of, we'll do different types of forecasting tools we can use or prediction tools we can use for financial planning. Okay. We have resource procurement planning. So this, I don't think we really cover this in too much detail in later lessons, but it's just how the suppliers will be selected, the selection criteria, the delivery dates, alternative suppliers, and backup plans. Very important that you have contingency plans in project management. Don't rely on one individual, one supplier to get things done, because you will put yourself in a little bit of a rut, or you'll get stuck at some point. It's guaranteed. Okay. Other plans worth considering. So remember, these are secondary plans. You could have a work plan, so you could have the work breakdown structure. If you want to include it in your big project management plan, you're welcome to. If you don't want to, you don't think it's necessary, don't do so. You can have a control plan, so when and how to monitor the progress or status of the project. You can have a data control plan. So the data control plan is something I added recently to the slide because of the prominence and the importance of POPIA. We need to protect personal information, and that's becoming more of an issue in South Africa with the introduction of new legislations to control data and manage data, better manage individuals' personal information. Other things worth including would be a requirement control. So if certain things would require a sign off or permission to do so, that would be included. A schedule control plan, so how we're managing the schedule, a budget control, communication control, which we already have, and then a reporting plan, and then metrics collection plan. So if your project is data intense, what tools are you using? How are we collecting that data? That sort of thing, if it's necessary. And then you can say I have issues resolutions. You have quality assurance plan, document plan, process improvement plan. So there are many different sub plans you can include in your project management plan. I think that was it there. Yeah. So step 6 is all about evaluation and refinement. So, you're going to finish your project plan, you've developed it, then you go back and you reevaluate it. You make sure that everything you've put in is actually of value, and it's contributing to the project success. And then we have refinement. Refinement is very important. But the only thing I would like to encourage that we do as project managers is don't fall into the rut of analysis paralysis. So overthinking it to the point where we never get to doing the work. So when you do the evaluation, make sure that you've decided which changes need to happen and how you're going to implement it. Also, you want to try and determine how accurate your planning is. And this can only be done at the end. So if your planning was good, once you get to the end of the project, you'll see that everything went according to plan or things didn't go according to plan. And then also, very importantly, document the lessons learned, because those lessons learned are going to come in handy at a later stage if you do another project of a similar nature. Okay. And then remember that it is an iterative process. So once the project plans are complete, it is important for the project manager, or it is the project manager's responsibility to ensure that the plan is updated continuously and improved upon. Okay, dynamicism is required in the project management. Okay, so you need to be very dynamic. You need to be fluid. You need to keep it going, keep it moving. That sort of thing is a requirement. Now, I'm not saying that your project management plan must be updated. The plan itself must be updated. It just means that if you have a change management document, it must be updated with the changes that occur. And if it's something that's major, you must document it in the project plan itself and have a version control. But if it's minor things, then just record it in the change management and then continue with the project as it's meant to be. Okay. But yeah, so you must be as dynamic as possible as a project manager. We must be agile, must be able to accommodate things that don't always go according to plan. Okay. So final notes, there are many different ways to approach project planning. Do not limit yourself to the content seen on the slides or learner guide. There's a little typo. There's a spelling mistake, but yeah, project management planning is often influenced by project managers' styles, planning references, and project requirements, and so on. So it's very important, this project management style thing. I want us all to develop our own style, our own approach, our own idea of what's the right way to do things, what is the wrong way to do things. And this will come from how we learn, how we deal with new tasks. But I just want you to know that you have a lot of freedom, a lot of liberty to approach this the way you feel like you want to do it. Okay, don't just limit yourself to the information that's being shared in the classes. If you want, you can go and watch YouTube videos where project managers talk about how they've approached these different things that are new to us. You're welcome to. And if you think that there's a different, better approach, then bring it on. Show me. Maybe I learned something new from the way you've answered or approached some of the questions. Okay. I think that is the end of the slide. So let's look at the workbook. There isn't a summative for lesson 3. So that's also a little bit of an error, but it's only the workbook. So I will go through the content now. And then I'll release it after the session with deadlines, with the due dates, which is on the class plan. Okay, but this is the workbook for lesson 2. Okay. So you'll see that they give you a scope statement from a project. I think this is from the first lesson anyway. Yeah, and the first question they tell you to do is that you need to review the prelim scope statement and refine it. Okay, make sure that you've refined the project requirements, the assumptions, and the constraints. All of this here above could be refined, and I've made sure that it's extra wordy. It's way bigger than it needs to be. So I want you to take it and refine it. Whether you think removing this graphic is necessary or not, you're welcome to. If you want to take a table out, because if you want to take this out because you don't think it's contributing to the scope statement, do so. If you feel like the approval requirements is missing a key team member, and that's a hint, then add that person. Okay. So then you'll see that we have 1.2. I'm in a class. Okay, sorry about that. So 1.2 says compile a new scope statement. So in this one, you're focusing specifically on the requirements, assumptions, and the constraints. On 1.2, you are compiling a new one. I think what we should do for 1.2 is, because I was going to say go back and edit this one and make it new, but I think what we should do is you should develop a scope statement on your project, your selected project, the one that you're using in your workplace project attachments. I think you bring that here, and then make sure it's refined and it's clean, it's clear, it's simplified, it makes sense. So for this one, I want you to use your own project, okay? And then it says document the project scope statement. So once you've put the prelim scope statement here, convert it into a single paragraph statement. Okay. And then at activity 2, what we want to do is you want to start to determine the components into which the work needs to be decomposed into in a horizontal division. So I want to know how many phases you have. Is it going to be 4 phases, five phases, 3 phases? So that's all you have to do is put the project name and then the phases you'll have. So you'll basically, if I go back to the slides, you will have, let me go here. I think yeah. So if we go to this, well, that section, that's very specific section. You're only going to have this, and it will differ. Your project names will differ, and it will depend on how many phases you want. So if you're doing 4 phases, if you're doing 5 phases, if you're doing 3 phases, completely up to you. But this is all I want for that section. Okay. Let me go down a bit more. Then 1.2 says determine the level of work decomposed in a vertical decomposition. So what they want now is you must tell us you must give us the vertical decomposition. So you must break it down further, okay, and go vertically, go down. And then after they want you must tell us about the major deliverables. So, what I would do is I'd decompose vertically and then I'd label what the deliverables are on that figure. Okay. Then 1.4 says determine the completion criteria. So just tell me what is the key requirements for your project to be considered complete. Okay. So all of these questions, 1.4, 1.3, 1.2, 1.1, 1.3, is 1.3 repeated? Yeah, so actually this should be 2. Okay, this should have been 2.1. But yeah, so everything from this part going down is going to be based on your project. Okay, and it's going to help you at a later stage where it actually asks for the workplace structure, the work breakdown structure, where it asks for a scope statement, where it's going to help you so much because you've done it in the questions. Okay, so I'm going to go to the summative now. And as I said, all of this will be released to you today with the due dates. Okay, so it says briefly explain the purpose of the scope statement. Okay, for 10 marks. Very straightforward, pretty simple. Then it says, why is it necessary to use a WBS? Why are these work breakdown structures so important? Okay, there are many reasons, but the two key ones that I can think of at the top of my head is that it literally it allows us to give the team work in terms of delegation of tasks, and it also gives you a big picture, a top-down overview of your project, so you can look at everything all at once. Okay. So then it says, based on the attached chart or brief, refine your scope statement. So this you would have done already in your workbook. So you can literally just copy that and put it in here because it's done. And then it says determine the approach for decomposing. So give us a paragraph or two where you talk about how you've approached breaking down this project. Then it says decompose the work into different components to the required level of detail. So they actually want the work breakdown structure, yeah. Okay, which you've already done in the workbook. So by doing the workbook, we already deal with half of, actually 66% of the evidence we need, for this workplace activity. So I hope it makes it easier that, that we are working on our own projects in that workbook. Okay. Now I'm going to go to lesson 3. Before I open lesson 3, are we all good? Just give me a thumbs up. There's no questions about the work, yeah? Just make sure that if you have questions, you either unmute and you talk to me or you put it in the chats and we'll address it. Because I know that it's going to get a little confusing. There'll probably be more questions as we start working on it. Okay, so for lesson 3, if there's only one question, I'll go all the way. You'll see there's only one question, and it says draft a flowchart outlining the steps that you need to follow to develop an integrated project management plan. And when we're talking about integrated, we're talking about the integration of the sub-plans. Okay. It says include the following. So project organization, structure, roles, responsibilities, and authorities to be refined in consultation with clients. Project team profiles are refined. Procedures to refer to. Okay, there's a very important question. Yes, so procedures to refer issues to be refined. Determining the integrated change control procedure, producing integrated plan, and then obtaining approvals. So these are just some of the stuff to include. This is not everything, okay? You will be required to add other key components that would fall part of this the flowchart of developing a project management plan. This is not everything. Okay, these are just the things I'm going to look out for. The other things I want to see also, they'll contribute to you being deemed competent for this. Okay, but that's it. That's basically your lesson 3 formative. It's quite straightforward. Now, in terms of what tool can we use to do this, I'm just going to quickly open up Miro. You see that it pops up here. I'm just going to sign in. Okay, so this is Miro. It's free to use. You can just sign in with a Gmail account. I don't know what that is. So I've used Miro for many different figures, diagrams, graphs, and whatnot. This we'll talk about at a later stage. This is critical path analysis. Just want to see, okay, this is not the right board. Let's go to the other one. This is not the right one, my bad. Okay, so yeah, so this is the one. This is all the stuff I've ever developed on Miro. I've literally just one board for everything. But you can literally create tools. So this I used for one of my assignments. You can see, I'll just move in a little. You can see that everything is adjustable. And if you move this, it will move the line kind of thing. It's very flexible. Okay, I want to show you. There it is. So no, it's not. That's not it. No. Let's see. I don't even know what this is. I just saw this now. It's very strange. Okay. I don't think I created that, but you can see that you can make quite interesting figures, diagrams. It's quite simple to use. I just want to find, here it is. So this is all the stuff that I used in the slides. Okay, you can see that it has the levels and whatnot. And this I used to demonstrate to one of my former groups, how to use the tool. So I'll just show you. So as you add elements, you can adjust them and move them around. This scope statement was a part of my initiation. I just included it. I thought that that's what the project required. So I'm just going to put this here. But if I want to add to this now, I can just come here and you see it's got these blue dots. I'll zoom in a little more so you can see them. So it's got the blue dots. Sorry about that. Take them off. There we go. So as you can see, it's got the blue dots here. So if I go down, it literally automatically connects them. And then if you want the lines to be, you can adjust the lines. If you want want them to be a little thicker, you can literally just go and make them thicker. And you see that it gets thicker. And you can add text. So that approval. See it's adjusting as I type also. Okay. And then I come to this and I decide, okay, I want to start with the planning, but I'll just copy this and I'll put that there so I can use it and then connect this. Okay, and you can see just like that, you start building and then you update so if our planning would include project plan. Okay, then the project plan will start with deliverables. And I'm just trying to show you, I'm not like it's not 100% accurate in terms of what yours should look like or what would be good for good marks, or whatever. I'm just trying to show you how the tool works. Okay. And then once you're done, let's say that I'm done and this is my my work breakdown structure. What I would recommend you do is you get a blank like a blank page or blank shape. So what I do sometimes I just go to the shapes and I literally just add this here. And then I'll fill it because now it doesn't have anything. And then I'll send it to the back. So just send to the back. Yeah, like that. And then it's like a clear background. It doesn't have the lines. And then I'll go present. Okay. Now that it's presented, it's the headings would go away. And then I will and then I'll literally just screenshot it. I'm in a class. Please. Okay. So yeah, so then I screenshot it. So you press Shift, Windows, and S, and then it will allow you to do a screenshot, and everything goes dim, and then anything you highlight will be in that image. So now once I have it in this image, I can go to my work and I just press Control V, and it will paste it in. So I'll show you. Let me start presenting it so that you can get it into your assignments with greater ease. So if I wanted to put it here, I just go Control V, and you can see that it's pasted in. Okay, and then it's easier to mark. You don't have to worry about attaching it too much. Okay, and then I would also recommend that you use this tool to make the flowchart for your lesson 3 formative. Okay, does that make sense? Does it help? So what I will do also is I'll put
Yes.
this.
Yes, Carl, thank you. It does help a lot.
Okay, I'm glad.
Yeah, I just had two comments that, but you addressed one. I was just thinking about the relationship between the WBS and the project planning. But I think your last slide, you highlighted that WBS is basically a high-level view of the project scope itself, and then the plan, you know, it gives a detailed guideline, the timelines, and the execution. So yeah, that was the one thing. And then in terms of what was that? The tools, yeah. I think we have Visio on Microsoft package. Will Visio help with that also?
Yeah, you're welcome to use other tools as long as you're comfortable and you're able to get it into your assignment, then it's fine.
Yes,
And it's
no,
all
that's
good.
fine. We do it for our basically our organogram structure, so it's the same concept.
Yeah, you're welcome to. Again, mine is just it's a suggestion. It's one that I use. As you saw, I have a lot in there. I use it for all my assignments, all my work stuff, any kind of lecturing I do. Some of the stuff I don't even know when I did it because I've been using it for years. But again, it's just one of my favorite tools. You don't have to. If you have a better tool or an alternative tool, you're welcome to use it. Okay, I'm just suggesting it so that if there's any colleagues who don't have these or don't know how to do it easily, then if you don't have Visio or any of that, then use Miro. It's free to use. You don't pay anything for it. You just need a Gmail account and you can sign in. Okay. And then also get familiar with the shortcuts that we have on Windows. So if you go Shift and you press the Windows button and S, you can take a screenshot of anything and then it goes to your clipboard, which means it sits there. Then you go to your document and you press Control V. It will paste it in there quickly. Okay, and you don't even, it's like so seamless. You don't even notice that it's what's happening in the background. Okay, are we all good? Can we end the session off there? I know it's a little earlier than the 2 hours, but I think we've covered a lot. So now I'm just going to focus on releasing the work to you and then setting the deadlines. And then if you have any questions or queries, you can always drop me an email or add a comment on the system. And then make sure if you add the comment, you at me. So you press at Carl, my name will pop up, and then you select that so that I can get an email about it. Okay, so just give me a thumbs up if we're all good. We're ready to end the session off there. Okay, thanks, Jerome. Thank you, thank you. Okay, and then as I said before, please be prepared for lesson 4. Bring a pen and paper, you're going to need it. We're going to be doing critical path analysis, and it requires a little bit of drawing out. You need to be able to visualize it as you do it. Okay, so yeah, with that being said, I will end the session off there. Okay, thank you, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Carl. Bye.
Take care. Bye.
All right. Thank you, Carl. Bye. Thanks for the lesson.
Take care. Take care.